네, 안녕하십니까. 거시클라우드 CFO 임정섭이라고 합니다. 제가 발표 내용 자체가 영어이기 때문에 우선 발표 자체는 영어로 진행을 하고 혹시 끝에 질의응답에 뭐 질문해 주실 내용이 있으면 그때는 한국어로 질문을 받도록 하겠습니다. Uh, so today I will be talking about cross-border marketing and commerce in the context of influencers. And I think this topic in itself is very, I guess, new to the world today because I think in the past 10 years, people have been talking about influencers, and then I guess you've seen a lot of digital penetration increase in the all across Asia Pacific. But what's very interesting on what we're seeing today is that there's a new type of business model that is really thriving. And I think a lot of what we see in Korea is translating into Southeast Asia as well. So just quick background on Gushcloud. Gushcloud, in short, we're very similar to Daya TV, Sandbox, Treasure Hunter, a lot of these MCN companies in Korea. And so effectively what we do is we manage creators. We manage creators, we also manage celebrities, and we figure out how we can create business models out of these different types of digital celebrities we see in the market today. So we are based in Southeast Asia. Our headquarters is in Singapore, but very uniquely, we are across all across Asia Pacific. So we are in the ASEAN 6, we are in Korea, Japan, China, we are in the US, and we're in Australia. So roughly about 220 employees globally. But for us, I guess what's key is that we are in fact the market leader in Southeast Asia. So what I like to say is that Gushcloud in short is the Daya TV of Southeast Asia. If we look at our history, what happens is in 2011 we were founded, but for us, foreign expansion was very important because, as everyone knows very well, Southeast Asia is one very interesting region, but there is no player that is able to take all the markets in one. So we started off going from Singapore to Malaysia, all the way up to Vietnam. But concurrently, what we've ended up doing was establish offices in key what we call global brand or IP markets like Korea, Japan, and the United States. And so effectively, while we were the first influencer marketing agency in Southeast Asia, we've grown to really do, I guess, entertainment business, our studios business, as well as our commerce business that I'll be talking about in the context of the opportunity that we see. In short, I guess we go beyond influencers. So we actually hold a lot of very A-list influencers, but also celebrities, including Naomi Campbell. You also see Kyle Kuzma, who's a professional NBA athlete. And I guess this is where you're able to see that it's not just influencers or what we call creators in Korea, but in fact, NBA stars are this level of celebrity that is going into the digital realm today. The economy is very straightforward. The number one job that a child wants to take when they grow up is in fact becoming a YouTuber or a vlogger. You've seen billion-dollar brands. You've seen a lot of money come into this space, and then you've also seen a lot of new innovative business models come out in the creator economy. But in short, then what do we exactly do? So we secure brand deals for our influencers. So we're brokering deals. Number two is we're creating and distributing content. And finally, we are very uniquely in live commerce, which makes Korea a very interesting and very important market for us through our partnerships, through key partners like Shinsegae Duty Free. Okay. So in short, what are we building? We see the real opportunity in sourcing products in global brand markets, advertising those products through influencers, and then finally directly selling the products in Southeast Asia. So right now we are very focused on Korea. So we are working with many Korean brands to be able to figure out what their exact go-to market solution is into Southeast Asia. And I think what a lot of people are very surprised about is the fact that it's not just these big brands like Clio or Hera that are able to get there. It's in fact the small brands that have a competitive pricing and a strong brand value that can get into Southeast Asia when it's early. Now you'll be able to see why I think I'm going to be saying now is the time to position for Southeast Asia. Okay. So if I talk about live commerce for one little bit, I think so. Right now in Korea, you see Kakao, you see Naver, you see Coupang. Everyone is really rushing into live commerce. But what we want to say is that this is not something completely new. Right? You've seen live commerce start in China through Taobao in 2016. It's risen to be a huge market in itself. But what's very important is that the user behavior that we have from CJO shopping, GS Home shopping, that remains it remains a customer psychology that works in the realm of media commerce that is live. And so when we look at adoption today, you see that China is about 7.5% of total e-commerce. You see that Korea in a year's time has become about 2% of e-commerce done through live. So I think beyond, however, the adoption in itself, we have a lot of conviction that this is just not going to be something you have to see in China or in Korea, but you see all across the world. And you see many signs of these adoption that I'll be covering in a little bit. So in the end, I think when we think Southeast Asia, there are a lot of questions that we get. But I think the fact in the matter is that it's quite unique and different from Korea in the sense that, sorry, can I go back? Oh. In the sense that it's a heavily Google and Facebook dominated market. So from an advertising standpoint, you have about 70% that is taken by Google and Facebook. And this does not even include the agencies that make money from the Google and Facebook ecosystems. But in the end of the day, when we look at how it's going to expand, our hypothesis and thesis is that it's all going to be content driven. So it's not going to be click or search based, it will be content driven because this is exactly what you've seen happen in China. Now, if we segment out the markets today, I think what's quite interesting is that you despite Southeast Asia being a 600 million population, the fact in the matter is that it's actually in itself a smaller, an equally big e-commerce market as Korea. So if Korea is about $74 billion today in e-commerce, then Southeast Asia plus Taiwan is about $97 billion. And what's quite interesting here is that if you take out Taiwan, then Southeast Asia as a whole is actually smaller than Korea. So when we say in Korea is a very small market, the fact in the matter is that it may be small in population, but it is in fact big in terms of an actual addressable market. But now when we look at, however, the difference when we look into the future, if you see 2025, you see Japan is going from a $100 billion market to 140. You're seeing Korea go from 74 to 325. You see Southeast Asia and Taiwan go from about 100 to 200. So I think this is where we really want to drive into the sophistication of the market and the potential, whereby Japan is a market that is pretty much stagnant. However, Korea is roaring and booming. Southeast Asia is in the early stages of growth. And so as a Korean brand or a Korean startup, what we say is that perhaps we can make the hypothesis that Southeast Asia is about 5 years behind Korea, which means that it's also actually a very good time to position as a brand into the market. One thing I just want to really pick out from this slide is really the fact that you see the digital penetration is really there. As in Korea, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, everybody already had a smartphone. But in markets like Indonesia, where the consumption power is 1/15 of Korea, you see that even though the people are poor, the digital consumption is already there. And you see that a lot happening, especially during the midst of COVID, where you've seen that the key phrase that we use is that 5 years of digital transformation has happened in 1 year. So just like we've seen an acceleration in Korea, you've seen a very big acceleration in Southeast Asia. And with that said, I think the most interesting and exciting category for us right now is, in fact, commerce. One key thing that I want to really point out is the idea of content, where obviously Korea does play a very key role in. You see that video streaming is really on the rise, and this is because you're leapfrogging from TV to OTT. But what's a very interesting fact is that if you go on Netflix today in Indonesia, that's out of the top 10 trending shows, 8 of them are Korean. It's the same in Vietnam, it's the same in Thailand. So there's naturally a very strong brand affinity or a real desire for the made in Korea or the born in Korea type of content and products, which is why for us, we take a very strong position to make sure that we're working with a lot of partners that want to penetrate into this very unique market in itself. Now, if we go into the main crux of today, what I want to talk about is really about the adoption of social and live commerce in Southeast Asia. So in Korea, we talk a lot about, before there were bloggers, there were 공동구매, then there were a lot of different ways that influencers or micro-influencers were selling product. But what you see right now in Southeast Asia is that it's coming out in a little bit more of an institutionalized way. So these are all shows at Gushcloud we directly produce in Southeast Asia on the left-hand side. So these are mostly based out of Singapore. You see, for example, that we've done a collaboration with Cheng Guanzhang. And then on the right-hand side, I guess these are two individuals in China that I guess everyone is very well known of. One is Li Jiaqi, the lipstick boy, and Wei Ya, the lifestyle queen, who each do about over $10 billion in sales each year in China. So our thesis is that just like you will see in Korea, there will be the category leaders in live commerce that are just driven by a talent in each Southeast Asian country, and that's effectively what we're trying to build out. Now, I just want to point out one thing coming back to this slide on the right-hand side, where you see that last year, in the summer of 2020, you've seen Kakao and Naver really go aggressively into live commerce. You've seen a very similar thing happen in Southeast Asia. So you've seen that Shopee, Tokopedia, all the Southeast Asia e-commerce platforms are spending a lot of money on live commerce. And what I mean here is that they're doing production, but at the same time, they are paying talent a lot of money to get them to go live. The same thing actually is happening in the US, where TikTok has started working with Walmart Christmas in 2020. And so it's effectively where everybody's really running into this space. Now, give you some specific examples. Lazada on your very left, they actually have a kind of like they have a competition to try to find or source the next top big live seller. You have Shopee, you have Tokopedia do very big promotions. Actually, for the one with Tokopedia, that's the biggest influencer in Indonesia with 50 million followers on Instagram. And then finally, you see TikTok rushing into the space as well. They've just launched in Indonesia with commerce. So I think it's really where the platforms are being very aggressive. They're spending a lot of money, and that's why you're able to start to see a little bit of an ecosystem start to form. And so here are again some examples of our shows in Singapore. And this is where I guess you see a lot of collaborations between MCN companies like ourselves with Shopee. So they would promote our shows within their app. They would also help with I guess different marketing techniques to be able to get us maximum exposure. But I guess this was a fascinating experience for us. So during 11/11 last year, we actually sold a car. So in Singapore, this is a flagship show called Sheikh Haikal. He's a rapper, and he was able to effectively sell a Toyota. I think it was a Toyota during the 11/11 promotion, and I think that was very shocking for us. But it showed that there is in fact trust in this new form of sales and marketing. Another example, I think K-Look also very hot in Korea. We were able to work with one of our biggest talents. So Choo Choo would be an equivalent to like a pony in the context of Singapore. And we were able to have a very successful campaign with her in Klook. So all in all, I think what I'm trying to get at is the fact that it's starting to really pick up. And you're starting to see signs of adoption similar to what you've seen last year. But then now, before I go more into live commerce, you also see social commerce. So social commerce is where you're able to see a new form of network selling. So what this means here is that there will be a supplier, and then there will be a pool of influencers. The influencers would buy the product from the suppliers and then resell to their followers. So it's very similar to the Korean style of 공동구매, but this is again a very key form of a new form of retail coming up in Southeast Asia. Now, a fun fact is when we were fact-finding and looking into the market, what we realized that even big brands like Amore Pacific in Korea, they actually sell a lot of their products through 공동구매 or these chain selling networks in China. It's something that people don't really talk about, but people know happens a lot in the market. And I guess the key message for me is that this is indeed happening in Southeast Asia today, and it's very new. I'll give you a case study. So Babyface is a product that we developed in Korea. It's a very simple exfoliating mask. I think you see it a lot in any stores all across Korea. And with that said, I guess we were able to activate a ton of influencers. You've seen a lot of this before, but to be able to directly sell to their followers. So this was one of the hits that we were able to work on late last year. And with that, we do work with a lot of Korean brands. Even, for example, the Blackpink. We even work with Blackpink for their Lisa lipstick collaboration. So these are the types of products and opportunities that we're going after because we know nobody's able to get into the market and make sales, but also make content very viral. One key case study that I'm going to use to kind of wrap up is really what we had done with 신세계 면세점 earlier this year. So we partnered up with 신세계 면세점, and we basically took 5 of our influencers, each representing a country. We took them to the Myeongdong flagship store, and at the flagship store, they were live selling to each of their countries respectively. It was a 6-week campaign. We used all different platforms: Instagram, Facebook, Shopee, Lazada. And with that said, I think what happened was quite spectacular. So this was a lineup. We had Taiwan, we had Singapore, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, and we got them to all live at the same time. So we had a very interesting network effect happening where we sold these brands. So we went all the way high end from 설화수 all the way down to, I guess, more common, which would be like peripera. And we tested out different categories. We also tested out different fashion and accessories. And with that said, I guess this is basically how it worked. There would be the Instagram push. There would be the live shoutouts. Then at 신세계 면세점, after the store closed, we basically had all 5 influencers go live at the same time, selling the same products. And with that said, the apps, they would actually promote this within their app very aggressively, because this was indeed a first of its kind type of opportunity. With that said, I think what was quite fascinating is that our mode of engagement was we would go live and then we would open the deal for 24 hours to make an exclusive deal. And with that said, we had our influencers do a final push, and of course some additional, I guess, services, logistics, right, customer service, gifts, and actually having the talent come together to do different content pushes to promote this concept of cross-border live commerce. In the end, it was very, very successful. So I cannot share the exact statistics today, but we had a lot of media coverage, both internationally and in Korea. We were officially told by Shopee that we had broken live commerce sales records in each of the countries. And so with this as a core, I guess our plan going forward in the second half of this year is to find more Korean brands that we can work with. I think that's cut it short. We have the talent, we have our studio, we have all operations and tools to be able to sell into Southeast Asia, and we're really looking for a lot of partners to make this happen. This is because for us, while we can work with a big retailer to acquire a lot of brands to do so, we would rather try to create case studies with smaller SME brands, because those are the ones that need it the most. So I think that's a key message that we're seeing. It's a very interesting opportunity. I dare to say that we are potentially the only player in the market that can do so. But we can do so because although we have a small team of 10 in Korea, we have a team of 200 in Southeast Asia that supports this operation. So all in all, I think when we talk about influencers, it was always where somebody paid an influencer to post. So let's say somebody gets paid $1,000 to make an Instagram post, a YouTube video, but conversion was always a question mark. But with commerce now in play, I think what's quite very interesting is that the models are changing. Now an influencer would only get paid for whatever they sell. Yes, the commission may be high, but from a brand standpoint, they don't need to spend before they see conversion. And I think because of that shift, that has changed a lot in Korea, but at the same time, that's changing in Southeast Asia, and there's a unique opportunity to be able to connect Korea to Southeast Asia in this matter. So that's basically what I wanted to kind of talk about today. If there are any questions, I'm very happy to address as well. Thank you.